Hello and welcome to another episode of The Free Agents, coming to you tonight from the CMS Australasia warehouse. We've done our work, we've had the forklifts going back there, we've been stacking boxes. Now we're ready to talk some basketball. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ed Wyatt, former backup point guard at Fort Vancouver High School. I know that's important to some of you watching out there, but the guys you really want to hear from are the gentlemen to my left. I'm talking about former Victoria Titan and now columnist for NBL.com.au, Liam Santamaria. Liam.
Evening, Ed. Good to be with you.
Good to see you. And of course, to his left, former captain of the Melbourne Tigers, two-time title winner, Tommy Greer. Good evening, gentlemen.
Yep, very good to be here. Let's do this again.
Let's do it again. Very exciting. We got 2 games in the books, and of course, each of the teams. We had our predictions. I think you went Melbourne in 4. You went Melbourne in 5.
Mm-hmm.
I waffled around and kind of said I think Melbourne in 4 or 5.
Yes.
But so far, both teams have held serve in their own home courts.
Yep.
We'll start with game 1, and then we'll break down into game 2 and have a deeper look at all this stuff. What do we think so far?
Well, like you said, I mean, that's how it's played out. They've held serve at home. That's how I thought the series would flow, and I'm not changing that at this point. I thought Adelaide's performance on their home court was particularly sort of impressive. I mean, it makes me start to feel like if one team has any hope of cracking the other's home court, it's probably Adelaide here in Melbourne, because that cauldron atmosphere in Adelaide, when they make 1 or 2 shots in a row, it sort of snowballs, and Melbourne look up against it there.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that's hard to say with the injuries and everything that happened in game 2, which made it so much tougher for Melbourne. But when they did get that game back to sort of 14 points going down the stretch, even with everything they were up against, and that did feel like one of Adelaide's best shots. Everything was working. Offensive rebounds seemed to just fall in their hands. It was just one of those games where everything was clicking. So I do agree with the fact that I think both teams held serve and did what they have to do, but they both did it pretty convincingly for me. I love the way that Melbourne played in game 1. I thought they weren't just a perimeter team. I thought they rebounded well. I thought they attacked the paint well, which is things we didn't see in game 2.
I think I used the word lunatic last week or something like that about the Adelaide fans, and I meant it in a good way. They certainly were up and about, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to break it down a little bit into the backcourt, because obviously Golding and Ware were massive in game 1, but in game 2, you know, Golding played very well, had a lot of shots, but Ware was held to just 6. He fouled out. Still wondering about that injury. You alluded to injuries. That's something we'll talk about as well too. But how do we see that backcourt?
Look, once again, it's going to come down to the injuries, I think. Melbourne are a completely different team without Casper Ware out there. They need Casper Ware healthy, because you can't have Chris Golding running the offense. You don't want a scorer of his ability coming down having to worry about facilitating, which he clearly was. He spoke about it in the press conference. He was concerned about how quickly he had to come down and shoot it, and whether he was getting teammates involved. You don't want Chris Golding feeling like that, and that's the reason Casper Ware is so important.
The big question is whether Casper Ware's time on the bench in game 1, or the way he played, was anything to do with his hip. You know, whether, because he was in absurd foul trouble. 2 fouls in the first quarter, saw him sat down at the late in that one. Then he picked up that third. I'll talk further about that foul in a few minutes. But
we'll get that in the next segment coming up.
It's got its own segment.
But I mean, 18 minutes, Casper. I mean, he was 3rd in the league in minutes played this season, and we spoke last week about how Melbourne have been riding Casper Ware over the sort of second half of this season. They established that he was the man that they were going to play off, and you know, Joey Wright has said that he's a real focus of theirs. They need to get the ball out of his hands. That was the thing he was most angry about after game 1, was the way his players, the LA players, didn't execute that game plan of doubling him off the on ball and getting it out of his hands. They did that in game 2, plus the foul trouble, and that's why we saw those funky lineups, and we saw Chris Golding handling the ball. And
he did say that Joey Wright said if Golding and Ware score 20 apiece, Melbourne United win.
That's the area for Melbourne to focus on most in terms of adjustments moving forward. How do they handle Adelaide's pressure, and how do they keep the ball in Ware's hands to make plays, score, and find his teammates for buckets.
You alluded to refereeing the fouls.
Yeah.
We should talk about that. Game 1, Adelaide shot 24 free throws. Melbourne shot 26. Game 2, Adelaide shot 40. Melbourne shot 16. Before we get your thoughts on the refereeing, let's listen to what Dean Vickerman, Melbourne United coach, had to say.
I don't think it should matter home or away. I think, the disparity in fouls called tonight was large, and so hopefully we've got the same guys pretty much refereeing. It's just got to be refereed. All teams just want that consistency, and I didn't think it was the same from game 1 to game 2 tonight.
Relatively strong statement, I think, about the consistency of the refereeing.
I'm going to jump in on that one because we actually texted about this one as the game was being right afterwards, actually, but. You want to talk about consistency of refereeing. That's how it's been reffed in Adelaide all season long. Not a couple of weeks, not for the last month. Since the start of the season, because of the way they play, that's how games have been called in Adelaide. And I find it a little bit surprising to hear that they weren't ready for that sort of style of game.
I think Vickerman had to come in and say that.
Of course he did.
Because
of course he did.
Joey came into the presser and said what he said after game 1, and then he got 40 free throw attempts.
And Joey's going to work the refs.
Right.
Dean has to do the
He's got to fight some fire with fire, or you get pushed around.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Adelaide have led the league in free throw attempts the last 5 years in a row.
Right.
Since Joey Wright took over, since 13-14, every year.
He's the numbers guy. He knows his numbers.
And so the fact that Melbourne shot more free throws than them in game 1, that was the biggest stat of all for me in game 1. It meant that they were attacking. It meant that they had the game on their terms primarily, and their ability, everything they worked on in the lead up in terms of sliding your feet, staying in front, playing vertical, worked. And I think they were just a little on the back foot, and Adelaide just super aggressive, plus that atmosphere in Adelaide, the refs are only human. Like you said, a perfect storm, and they got the calls.
And that's something we haven't really spoken about much in terms of these first 2 games, but Melbourne's attack in game 1 compared to game 2 was completely different, and maybe foul trouble, maybe the Boone injury probably played a big factor in that, but they were much more aggressive in the paint. They weren't just solely reliant on that perimeter game, whereas it looked in game 2 when things got a little tough and they didn't have Boone to go to inside, they didn't have Casper out there penetrating, fighting guys, getting them open. They just were settling for that 3-point shot.
And that was Adelaide's D on Casper on the on-ball. We double him hard. He has to throw that flippy lollipop pass just to find someone.
Which is getting intercepted when you got ding or so. Ding.
Ding-a-ling.
Ding.
Absolutely.
Sobey or Creek on that week.
The beauty of a series, too, I love this. I love the fact that it ebbs and flows. It's on a home court. You got Joey coming out after game 1. You got Dean coming out after game 2. That's the beauty of a series, and rather than just one game. I love that aspect.
I want to jump on one call, though, from the refs.
Oh,
Casper Ware's 3rd foul. So he picked up his first trying to block out Shannon Shorter, and he grabbed him, fair enough. The second one, Sobey kind of got in underneath him and suckered him into that, which Casper does to other people. But that third one, Sobey driving it to his left, Ware sliding, took the contact in his chest. 3 minutes to go in the second quarter. It was a 3-point game. He goes to the bench. At halftime, it's a 16-point game.
Wow.
Massive,
so what are you
massive
saying?
call.
You're just saying it's a big call, or you're calling out?
I'm saying it was a bad call, and I'm saying it had a
changed
massive
the game.
impact on the game.
There we go. Let's dig deeper into the other big talking point. We've alluded to it 5 or 6 times already. Probably should have put it at the top of the show. Injuries. We'll go through Boone, Childress, and we alluded to a little bit with Ware, but Josh Boone obviously would be the real key, and Dean Vickerman sat him down a bit. We don't know whether he was setting him down because the game was a little out of control or if he really was hurt. Do we have any inside word on
Look, this
that?
is an interesting one. Vince Crivelli has said that, CEO of Melbourne United, that Josh Boone's fine, he's good to go, and all is well. I think anyone who watched that game knows that Josh Boone is not fine, he's not good, and he doesn't seem ready to go. He was almost running with a limp. He was running with like a hiccup in his giddy up. He was really struggling. He was really struggling to get down that floor.
That's the slogan, by the way.
It was ballet last week, and you got
that's
some
right.
hiccups.
That's
right. No, I mean, and he's so important, and it clearly impacted on him. And that's the beauty, though, of this schedule, is it does give, 5 days? It's not a 2-day break like, you know, between 1 and 2. He's got 5 days to kind of get himself
I mean,
right.
he is the biggest factor in this series right now, right? What Melbourne has based themselves on this year and why they've been so good, why they've been a different Melbourne to the Melbournes of past, is because of that defense and because of that rebounding. And he is the anchor for both those things.
Well, that leads right into Childress, obviously, the shoulder injury. It didn't look that bad when you're watching it live, but he grimaced immediately. You knew something was wrong.
Yes, no structural damage.
Okay, yep.
But he'll be reassessed during the week to see if he'll play. So that means, okay, no torn ligament or torn tendon, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play in game 3.
It doesn't at all. And I actually sustained a similar injury to that when I was playing back in the day. And those impact injuries that jam up your AC joint, you can get really severe bone bruising up in the joint, and that's stuff that doesn't go away. I had it to the point I remember doing that one time. I was in China playing some awful series that the Tigers had sent us over there to play, and had to go to Chinese hospital. I could not lift my arm.
Chinese hospital?
Yeah.
How was that?
How'd that work out?
Huh? Not well. I'm pretty sure at least 15 people died around me.
Wow. Jeez.
That's comforting to know. So Boone, Childress, and of course Casper Ware is the other one, and we don't really know. Again, we'll probably have to wait to game 3 to see if that hip really is bothering him.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that he came out and in the first quarter of game 2 was playing pretty well, hit a big 3. But then the other thing is he's the guy that doesn't get into foul trouble.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen to him.
He is good
so
defensively.
you wonder whether if he was a little impacted physically, he was starting to reach and hack and whack a little bit more. That's how he got his 4th and his 5th.
And maybe in just the attacking style of Adelaide and, the backcourt of the 36ers just making a focus of making him play on both ends of the floor. And I mean, Adelaide's a team it's pretty easy to find yourself in foul trouble quickly with.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just his game and he got caught.
But he's so important they need him on the court. I wrote that because of his foul trouble, Melbourne rolled out at 2 different times in the game, once late in the first and once late in the second, lineups that had not played together at any stage this season.
Fascinating.
No possessions together, so you don't want to be doing that in a grand final series.
No, you don't. Well, we've ended the medical segment here. None of us are doctors.
Thanks, Dr. Nick.
We don't even play them on TV, by the way, or we try to at least. Let's talk about depth. This is something we talked about in the last show. We said the 36ers had arguably a better bench. I think that arguably can probably have a line through that now. Game 2, they became only second team in NBL history to have 7 players score in double figures in a grand final game, which is incredibly impressive. The 2 leading scorers, Majuk Deng, 18, and Ramon Moore, 17, both off the bench. Here's a quick word from Adelaide coach Joey Wright about Majuk Deng.
Majuk's a scoring machine. If he's on the court and he's on there and he gets minutes, he just finds a way. I mean, we ran a few things for him tonight, but not a lot. And I think he ended up leading us in scoring, didn't he, or close. For him, for the minutes he played, he just finds a way to put the ball in the hole and get it done. So, it's great to have him.
I think we mentioned Deng last week when we were talking about the bench. He was pretty remarkable, wasn't he?
He was. And, I mean, this is Melbourne, I think their top-end talent, you look at the starting lineup, Casper Ware, Josh Boone, I think their top-end talent is better than Adelaide's. Adelaide's has more high-level talent going deeper into the bench. And we said last week, Adelaide have match winners off the bench. And we highlighted Majuk Deng and Ramon Moore, and boy, did they show up in game 2.
We're pretty good, aren't we?
See, I don't think it's just a matter of talent. I think that this is it's such a massive credit to Joey Wright and what he's done with this young squad. For me, it's confidence. And he's done it for the last at least 2 seasons. He fills these guys with the confidence that they are game winners. Like, we are the best players in the NBL. Majuk Deng, before this season, you wouldn't have tickets on him. And he's going out for 18 points in game 2, must-win game at home of a grand final series, winning games from throughout the year. I mean, I credit this to the confidence that Joey Wright gives the guys. I'm not saying it's, at the start of the year, you wouldn't have matched the talents and even compared it.
Maybe a combination of the two, because Sobey, I mean, he's so great at identifying that talent in these guys and then bringing it out. Sobey, obviously, super talented guy, and Joey's been able to bring it out.
It's got to be there. You've got to be able to do it.
How good can Majuk Deng be?
I mean, question.
What's
this
the
is
ceiling?
his second year as a pro. I mean,
very athletic.
Imagine
He had
some
a couple
size
jumpers.
on him.
Yeah, a little bit of bulk.
You see a future, like, legit top-end star of the league like a Chris Goulding?
Oh, it's definitely potential for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's beyond him and what's, his potential. But
Does he have
a lot of work
NBA
to do.
potential?
Geez, I don't know about that. I mean, NBA is a pretty big leap, but who knows?
Certainly does. And Ramon Moore, just kind of that consummate pro, sort of just gets it done, doesn't he? Just finds a way, gets to the rim, plays some defense, ends up with a loose ball, really competitive.
And it flies under the radar a little bit, but he's the guy who sparks a lot of Adelaide's runs. When they go on 8-2 runs or 11-zip runs, it's Ramon Moore pushing the ball, spinning every single time.
Every single
and
time,
finishing at the rim.
yeah.
I said to Tommy today, or maybe yesterday, Ramon Moore to me, remember that Oklahoma City team a few years ago with Harden, Westbrook?
Yeah.
Ramon Moore plays the role for this Adelaide team of James Harden from that team. And Chris Bosch was on a podcast recently saying when we played that final series against Oklahoma City, Harden was our focus.
Wow.
And that's, if we shut him down, we felt we had this series. I wonder if Ramon Moore's influence is maybe being overlooked a little.
Because both he and Childress have this just uncanny ability when, right when it's needed to come up with a play, and it could be anything. Sometimes it's an offensive rebound, sometimes it's a weak side block, sometimes it's a bucket or a uncharacteristic Childress three. It could really be anything. Yeah, they just are. They're just winners.
You're watching the free agents with Ed Wyatt, Liam Santamaria, Tommy Greer. We asked you can send us a tweet at the Free Agents TV or using the hashtag #TheFreeAgents. And one thing that people have been crying out for is Liam Santamaria's own segment. They said, we love Liam, he's a numbers guy, but we really want to see some opinion
When
from
you
him.
say calling out, you mean his mum called again, right?
Well, yeah,
That's what you're talking about.
Thanks,
We've had enough, Brenda.
It's a new segment called Lift. And we're going to kick it off with a quote from Dean Vickerman, and then we'll get Liam's opinion on that. Here's Dean.
We need Casper, we need Ty Wesley, we need Josh Boone to be, the players that we know. And, tonight they didn't give the contributions that they normally give us.
Some very strong words again from Dean Vickerman. And Liam, that leads into this week's episode. Could be the final one, you never know, but we're going to give it a go. Lift.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on Vico because that means I can't get into too much. I can't go too wrong.
Your first episode, your first chance to look down the barrel and really have a go
to get right in.
And you're just piggybacking. You're just going to jump on.
I'm going to jump on Vico because he's the coach of the year. So but I'm going to talk about Casper Ware.
Tell you.
Because Casper Ware, like I said, he's the key to this series, and Melbourne need him to lift in particular if they're going to take this out, because he is the focus of Adelaide's defence. At the start of the year, he had some quiet games when teams were doubling him and getting the ball out of his hands, and then he turned a corner and he said, I'm going to attack that double team and I'm going to get on the front foot, and he needs to do that in game 3, 4 and 5. 18 minutes, fouled out, 6 points. That's not enough from Casper Ware.
Okay.
Lift.
You heard it here first.
So the import that had 6 points needs to play better. All right. What else you got?
Grizz, jump in. You're welcome.
Tommy will get his chance. We'll come up with a segment for Tommy next week. We're going to work on that one. Before we move on.
Get a segment.
We'll get it. Don't worry. We'll get something together. Before we move on.
So I can shit on it.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention the Ty Wesley-Mitch Creek battle. Because I found that fascinating early on. And Wesley almost setting himself up as a villain in Adelaide, getting booed and all that. But I think Wesley and Creek, just fun guys to watch, sort of off-Broadway. We talk about the superstars. These guys are fun to watch.
They really are, and I think they're superstars. I think they're absolute,
right.
absolute factors in this series. And they've both got that little bit of arrogance about them where they're not going to be flexed on. Wesley's flexing in game 1. And
a lot of guns out.
Yeah, a lot of guns. I wouldn't be surprised if that flex from Mitch Creek was just a little subtle, hey mate, you got a lot of work left to do here.
He can flex better than anyone else in the league.
This is true.
I think there's one to watch, by the way, just quietly. All right, before we wrap up tonight, we'll look at some of the other things making news in the world of basketball. And we'll start with a big one. This hit the papers this week. Boomers against Team USA, Etihad Stadium.
Look out.
August 2019. How good is this?
How good is this?
Oh my God.
I mean, really, this is what the basketball public of Australia has been calling out for since forever. I mean, we want Team USA out here. We want them playing against our Boomers. Yeah. Our Boomers are the best they've ever been, and we're going to do it at Etihad Stadium.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I mean, kudos Basketball Australia, kudos NBL and everyone involved, and just like for me, you know, someone who loves the game, I'm sure you guys are the same, but to see Basketball Australia, Victorian government, NBL, everyone actually working together to get something like this across the line.
Yeah.
I mean, such good signs for our game.
Yeah, and we can't worry about who's going to be here and who's not going to be here. Is LeBron going to be here? Is going to be Steph Curry? It's a year or so away.
Matter.
We don't know who the superstar
I
is
hope
anyway.
they don't send them, and we roll out our best team and wax them.
Absolutely.
Send them right back.
Speaking of that, who are some names we need to look for? Obviously, we know that Joe Ingles and Ben Simmons, but who else is a bolter or is someone to look out for?
Mitch Creek.
Yeah,
Mitch Creek is on the rise, no doubt about it. I expect
Creek on the rise. Not bad. Huh? Not bad.
Monsoon season.
Creek, I expect him back in the Summer League this year and to have a legit look at an NBA roster next season. So he's a guy. Majuk Deng.
Wow.
Okay.
You want a bolter?
That is, that's a bolter.
I mean, with what he has shown in this season and this series, if he takes a Sobey-like leap from there into next season, he'll be a guy that's a
Jonah Bolden. He's doing great things in Europe.
He's in.
He's a lock. I think
you're
right.
Tick him in.
I think he's a lock as well too. Keep your eyes on that because that's going to be huge. Paul Henare, New Zealand Breakers, reportedly turned down a deal. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing? And is not going to come back and coach?
Yeah, obviously new ownership.
Yeah.
New era over there with the Breakers. My mail is that he wanted 3 years. Okay. They wanted 1 year, and things broke down from there.
Okay.
It's a crying shame.
Well, if he wanted one, if they want one and he wanted three, why don't we say two?
That's business. You're just a businessman, Ed. You're a businessman.
The furthest thing from a businessman. But interesting.
But it's a shame. You know, I think he's a really, really good. He's a favourite son of New Zealand basketball.
Coaches the national team. I mean,
he captained that club to a championship. Came in. They were 9-1. Okay, they fell off a cliff in the second half of the season, but they were in the finals. There were 4 other teams that weren't, and they played Melbourne United within an inch of a third game. Really surprising.
Does Cairns make a play for him, or is that?
I think they definitely would make a play for him. Absolutely, he's really good friends with Coach Aaron Fern. Wouldn't be surprised if Fernie, maybe not Swatsies, but if Fernie at least put in a word for him with management. I don't think it was too brutal the way Fernie left Cairns up there.
Okay.
But young family, Paul Henare, that's why he would be looking for the 3 years. And I wonder if potentially the New Zealand basketball, he is coaching the national team, maybe potential for him going into a full-time role in that position or something like that. Maybe played a factor.
Another one to watch this space. Third item, Oscar Foreman retirement. We've talked about him on the show before. Just one of the good guys. 17 seasons, 511 games. Absolute, just overused, but ornament to the game.
Just ornament. I don't know. If you want to be known as the ornament to the game.
It means you're a bright, shiny thing. You're
you just get left on the mantle for the next 35 years.
There's 2 ways of looking at it. He is one of the great guys.
Collecting dust.
Fascinating guy, too, if you talk to him. I've done some radio interviews with him. And
funny guy.
The off-season travel, we went to Russia, traveled the Trans-Siberian Express, and he does all this kind of stuff. So really unique individual, and just a guy that we love having around the game.
And like you said, just an incredible career. I mean, 900 three-pointers, and really, I played against him in juniors. He really adapted his game and changed it. He used to be so athletic. I remember him at an Adidas camp with a between-the-legs dunk, all sorts of stuff, like real athlete. Just adapted his game and became, allowed him to have that longevity.
Only the 13th guy to play 500-plus games puts him in rare company. And I tweeted today,
incredible.
You play that many games in the league, it speaks to your talent and your character. And the combination of those two things makes him a champion of the league.
Absolutely right. Fourth item of 5, Isaac Humphries. He mentioned this potentially, I think, at the awards night. He was going to have a look at Europe. It looks like, indeed, that's where he's headed.
Well, he's playing there right now. And, his agent has made it clear, foxsports.com.au said today that yeah, his agent's made it clear he's turned down an offer from the Sydney Kings, and he's going to head to Europe and sort of explore his options further over there.
I mean, let's be honest. Did anyone at any point this season think Isaac Humphries seemed happy up in Sydney? I remember seeing him right at the start of the year and asking him questions, and he was like, kind of missing the States, you know, like feels a bit weird being home. I don't think he ever really settled into life here in the NBL or with the Sydney Kings. I'm not surprised at all to see him.
You know what I remember from that night? He loves Christmas. You remember that? This big thing about how he loved Christmas.
Who doesn't love Christmas?
Yeah, well, he loves it. He went nuts. He went crazy apparently at Christmas. Final item. We'll hand this one over to Tommy. New addition to the NBL board. Big name, Andrew Dimitriou, former head of the AFL. That's going to be a good signing.
It's a great signing. I mean, you say big name.
Huge name.
Yeah, he is one of the biggest names in sports administration and well regarded as one of the best sports administrators going around, and you know what he did for the AFL. And I think this is actually the first position he's taken up within sport since leaving the AFL. So for him to get on board the NBL and back, you know, the direction of the league like that, I mean, that speaks volumes.
Absolutely right. And before we close out, let's go back on those predictions that we talked about earlier. We all thought Melbourne would win, sort of depending whether you're 5 or 4 or 4.5, whatever I decided. Do we change them at all? Do we have any thoughts on, do you still think Melbourne United can win in 4?
In Adelaide.
It doesn't matter. You don't have to hold to it. I'm just curious if you think they can get it done.
You sort of do.
No. Well, I mean, the entire series comes down to the injuries. It really does. That's where we're at the moment, and I mean, that's just
you're right.
It's the facts of it. If Boone gets up and Boone is moving well and he looks healthy, I think Melbourne still win in 4, regardless of how Childress gets up. I think Boone, for me, is the key. If he can get up and play the way he's played all season long, then I'm sticking with Melbourne in 4.
You think 5?
I still think 5. I'm shocked that you think if Childress is back and Boone's back and everyone's all firing on all cylinders, you still think Melbourne can win over there in Game 4 after what you saw yesterday?
I can. They've done it. They've won twice over there this year. And I know it was early in the season. It's all these things. But they've done it. And they've done it twice.
Happy with the Melbourne crowd in Game 1? Seemed to be up and about from I watched on television.
It was good, but I mean, Vince, the CEO of Melbourne, has called out Melbourne. You know, where the sport, Melbourne's supposed to be the sporting capital. What we saw in Adelaide was next level.
Yeah,
so I'm expecting Game 3, Friday night, Hisense Arena. If the roof's not off, by the end of it, it needs to be.
And it needs to be full too. I mean, the crowd for the New Zealand Game 1 for Melbourne was good, not great.
Right.
It's Game 1's though.
For Game 1 against Adelaide, it was good. It was very good.
Right.
But not great. That Game 3 needs to be a great crowd, every seat full, super
and it
loud.
will be. I'm sure it will be.
It's a huge game as well. Obviously, the series is not a genius to figure out. In a 5-game series, Game 3 is very, very important.
It's pretty pivotal.
See, I'm pretty pivotal. I'm full of them tonight, aren't I? Liam, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Tommy, as always, this has been The Free Agents. Again, as I mentioned, you can send us a tweet at The Free Agents TV or the hashtag The Free Agents. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.